Hey everyone, welcome to today's interview. I have got one of my favorite people, Emily Chadbourne here. And one of the things that I wanted to ask Emily about today, so Emily does a whole lot of mindset coaching and helps people get through the funk of business, is to just sort of tell us where she's going with her business and what brought her here. So, what sort of, inspiration she has. And I thought it might be a great opportunity to give you, the insights into the mind of someone who is coaching other people to think the right way. So hi, Emily, how are you going?
Hi, Rosie. Thank you so much for having me here today. It's
My
awesome.
pleasure. So tell us a little bit about where you've come from.
So I've been working in mindset probably for the last 2 years. A lot of my work is done through video content. So I do lots of lives, lots of live videos. I have a Facebook group where I'm constantly in that group live. It's free to join, that crazy thing called live. And I just find videos a really great way to be able to convey a huge amount of passion and emotion and fun and vibrancy to my clients or potential clients or to my market.
Okay, so you've only been doing this for 2 years, did you say?
In mindset, yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so how long do you think coaches should be in business before they can say, before they can really give useful advice?
I think it would be ridiculous to pretend like that isn't a conversation that most coaches have.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are coaches who've been around for 10, 15, maybe even 20 years who are still having that conversation with themselves.
Yeah.
Like, how more qualified do I need to be? And I think it's not about how qualified you are, it's about how quickly you can get a client a result. And that should be your metric.
Okay.
Not how many hours have you spent studying. I know a lot of people that study and don't implement. I'm just a very quick implementer, which is what qualifies me.
Oh, okay, cool. So you're saying most of your stuff is online?
Yes, yeah.
A lot of video work?
Heaps of video work, yeah.
So, not to get too personal or anything, but, do you think your age could possibly be making people think, why would I, maybe, I don't know, are you getting too old now? I know you talk about how when you started realizing that things weren't right for you in your business and you're 31, I think.
I'm 38, so I'll take that.
38 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're starting to get a little bit sort of old in the tooth there. It's so, maybe, is that why you refer to when you're 31 fairly often, to try and kind of focus that age down?
I think age is something we can't get away from.
Yeah.
And we can either refer to it as growing older or we can refer to it as growing wiser. And there is a great experience that comes with age.
Not
and
for
I think
women though. Like women just, once they get to a certain age, really, people don't want to hear them anymore. And you're kind of nearing that age now, aren't you?
Yeah, the problem is there are lots of people who are my age and they probably don't want to hear it from a 22-year-old. Now, there are lots of 22-year-olds who want to hear it from a 22-year-old and probably looking at me going, she's past it. What does she know? She can't relate to me at all. But I'm assuming I'm not the only 38-year-old in the world. And so there are a heap of other 38-year-olds who are going to relate to me, or anywhere in and around that age bracket, give or take a decade, because there are 7.7 billion people on this planet. So yeah, it would be weird if I was the only one that was born in 1981. However, the other thing that I will say is that when your content, your product or your service is on point, nobody cares. I don't care if you are 25. In fact, one of my personal coaches, one of my personal mentors is only 29. I don't think he knows less than me, because he proves time and time again that he creates an environment and a safe space for me to explore more about myself in a way that a coach who might be 45, 55, 65 doesn't. So the age is irrelevant. It's how well are you delivering your content or your product or your service to your client, and how are you resonating with that person.
Okay, cool. I like that. But when you're doing video stuff online, right, obviously you're going to be presenting well and all that sort of stuff. So do you find it hard to put yourself out there, considering, like, you're not a supermodel or anything like that, you're nice looking, but, considering that you're very, you know, fairly, I don't want to be rude or anything, but you know what I mean. Do you find
Average
that makes it hard?
looking.
Sorry?
I'm average looking.
Yeah, you're rather average looking, and yeah.
Yes. But here's the thing about that. Most people I know are average looking.
Mm.
And
But they don't put themselves out there on video.
no, they don't. But that doesn't mean that they wouldn't benefit from seeing somebody who is demonstrating the courage and who is demonstrating what it is to stand in your power, and who is demonstrating that you don't need to look a certain way to achieve success, to contribute to the world around you, and to connect with another human being.
Yeah.
And actually, Rosie, if I was to stand here now looking polished with my hair extensions and my fake eyelashes and my tits up to my cheeks without a stain on my unashamedly human top,
Your ironic top.
My ironic top, you may very well find that you relate even less, because especially when it comes to helping people with a problem that they have, if you can't see that I have at once had that problem and therefore have the solution for that problem, why would you buy from me?
Mm.
So if I'm to sit here and be like, guys, I'm such a positive person and I'm so pretty and I'm so blessed, no one's going to relate to that apart from the pretty blessed people, and they don't have the problem that I'm solving. So no, I'm not a supermodel. I'm exceptionally average looking. And yes, there are moments just before the camera turns on where I go, what the hell am I doing? And who's going to want to look or listen to this? And then I have to override that thought and remind myself that while I stay in the shadows, I'm encouraging other women to stay in the shadows. Mm. And if I want to do my job, and my job is to encourage women to come out their shadow and into their light and stand in their power, then I have to do that first.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, plenty of people are coaches out there. So, you know, why would you bother?
With me?
Yeah, like with your business and, you know, offering training and doing your lives and all that sort of stuff. Like, there's heaps out there already. I mean, people can tap into that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
That sounds really mean, doesn't it?
A lot of content out there, Rosie. There is a lot of free content out there as well. Yeah. And realistically, if you wanted to learn something, anything at all, you could just go to Google, right? Mm. How to build a back-end sales funnel and active campaign. How to, I don't know if you can build a back-end sales funnel and active campaign, by the way. My VA does that. Yeah. But here's the thing. I could go to Google and find that out, but I choose not to because my time is precious. And I don't want to spend that much time learning something that somebody else already knows. Mm. And the reason that I coach, even though there are hundreds of thousands of other coaches out there, is because nobody else is me. Mm-hmm. And I say this to my clients a lot of the time, you know, you could go and speak to somebody else, but what you see in me is somewhere inside you and you've just forgotten where it is. And so that is why you choose me and not the coach next to me. That's why you've invested your time and your money and your energy in my coaching program and not Joan's coaching program. Mm. Now, what Joan is teaching and what I am teaching, probably exactly the same thing. But when you listen to Joan, you don't resonate with her stories. You don't resonate with her teaching style. You don't resonate with her personality. There is just something about Joan that makes you feel like you're listening to information, but you don't want to go out and implement it. Mm-hmm. When you listen to me, totally different. Now, there are some people that listen to me and they're like, who is this British chick?
I was just about to ask.
Well, like, I don't resonate with her, but there's this awesome, amazing woman over here called Joan who I love. Yeah. There are 7.7 billion people on this planet and it is only getting bigger. And so it's a bit like Woolworths turning around to Coles and being like, do you know what, Coles? I've just realised you're doing what we're doing. I'll just shut my doors. Don't worry about it. We wouldn't have enough room in the supermarket. Can you imagine the chaos in Coles?
Yeah.
Woolworths shut their doors.
Yeah. So you think you're Coles now?
Well, basically, I'm aligning myself with a rather large brand. But there is enough to go around. And if to be successful in business and to be a successful coach for other women, I also need to demonstrate abundance. abundance of love, abundance of friendship, abundance of energy, abundance of connection, abundance to contribute to the world around me. So while I'm sitting in scarcity by saying, oh God, hang on a minute, there's another coach over there and another one over there and another one over there, what I'm demonstrating is scarcity and lack. So I demonstrate there's coaches everywhere and they're awesome and we've all got this amazing communal message. Listen to us. And if you don't resonate with me, all good. I've got a bank of practitioners that I know, love and trust that I can refer you to. Yeah. And it's the same in the VA world. I'm not always going to resonate with Sharon. My VA, I love, but somebody else might not love her working style or the way that she operates. It works for me. And so, yes, there are other VAs, but there's only one of you. And that's
don't you wish right now there were so many more of me, because I'm being so nice to you today?
Rosie, they should cookie cutter you and push you out. We'll start selling you on Coles, mate.
You know what? They kind of do.
How to have a bitch on your shoulder.
Sorry?
How to have a bitch on your shoulder.
You know what? I kind of actually think it's funny that you said that. They do cookie cut me because I am on everyone's shoulder.
There we are. Who doesn't want a little bit of that in their lives?
Oh, no, you need a little bit more of Rosie love, right?
A little bit more negative Nelly in my ear, telling me all the reasons that I should stay small and stay in my safe little box.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rosie. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, hopefully by now people have realised that my question...
I hope so. Otherwise people are like, oh my God, this Rosie chick who was recommended to me by Sharon is mental.
She's such a bitch. It's actually really hard to pick at you. I probably should have picked somebody else, because it's like, how can I possibly say, oh, you're very average looking and you're old? But these people is what people do to themselves. Like the things that I just said are rubbish. They're rubbish. You're gorgeous. You're smart.
And here's the thing, I do it too. So everything that you've just said to me, I promise you, on a daily basis, and I'm in this work 24/7, on a daily basis, I have to override that voice. And the way that I do that, without going into like the neurology, the biochemical reaction that's happening in your body on a continual basis based on your paradigm, which is a collection of thoughts and experiences and beliefs, memories, impressions that you have of other people, experiences that you've had, and some birth neurology. Without going into the details of all of that, the way it works is I cannot always control my first thought, because my first thought is a very, very sophisticated defense mechanism which protects me and keeps me safe. And we use the word ego, and I'm not talking like, oh, I'm going to the gym ego. I'm talking about the part of your brain which only has one job and one job alone, and that is to keep you alive. We're talking DNA, survival of the fittest.
And that's all I was trying to do. I was trying to save you from embarrassment and failure.
But you're trying to save me from judgment, from embarrassment, from growth, because growth means I'm doing something different, and my ego doesn't want me to do something different, because while I'm doing something different, it's on guard. This might not go right. She might get rejected. Rejection is one of our biggest fears, and there's a huge amount of neurology that comes around that. The part of your brain that gets ignited when you are in the feeling of rejection is the same part of your brain that gets ignited when you're facing impending death. Because it is, back in the day, tribal times, if you were rejected from the tribe, you couldn't survive. So it is linked directly to the experience of death. So we do everything we can to avoid rejection. We reject other people before they reject us. We self-sabotage. We say no to that job because we don't have the time, or it might not work out the way we need it to work out, or, so-and-so needs us to do something over here, which is completely irrelevant, but is keeping me safe. And so all of these voices are this neurology in my brain has been forming since the day that I was born. And it's heavily based on what my parents taught me, what I observed at my school, what my religion was, what my social conditioning was, what my experiences were as I was growing up. And those neural pathways, they're pretty set, man. Like, they've been 38. They've been that neural pathway.
Pretty old, isn't it?
They're pretty old. Get some little Botox in them.
So you need to get a bit more, woman.
So they're pretty solid, right? These neural pathways. And what that means is we don't have conscious awareness of these thoughts anymore. We just instinctively self-sabotage. We just instinctively find ourselves procrastinating or being overwhelmed or directing our attention and our focus somewhere else. So the first thought, and my voices don't always come to me with the sound of your voice attached, although maybe they will for the rest of my life. But quite often they will come in feelings. So my voice is, I'm a very kinesthetically driven person. So people tend either to be very visual or audio or kinesthetic. And I'm very much around the feeling. So I will have a feeling that tells me, Emily, you're not good enough. Emily, you shouldn't do this. Emily, you're too old. Emily, no one's going to care what you speak. Emily, there are other coaches out there who are doing better than you. So why are you even bothering? Now, I can't control that first voice because it is rampant. But what I can do is control my second voice. And my second voice has to be the voice that I would choose to speak if I was talking to somebody who I loved more than anyone else on this planet. So I choose my eldest niece for that role because she was the first person to make me an auntie. Now, I don't love my eldest niece more than the rest of my nieces and nephews. It's just saying it. There ain't no favorites here. And we call her Moo. Her nickname is Moo, which she's now 16 and she hates.
Yeah.
When she was little, it was really cute. And so my second voice, the second thought that I have, has to be one of love and compassion, as if I was feeding back to my niece Moo. And I will say to her, you can do anything that you set your mind to. Nobody cares how old or how young you are. If you're coming from a place of heart, and if you're coming from a place of service, and you're coming from a place of really strong boundaries so that you're never in resentment, but you're always in compassion, people are going to want to listen to you. So I bring myself, back to the intention behind doing the video, the intention behind doing the podcast, the intention behind putting myself out there, which is always one of service. And the moment that I come back to that and I speak to myself like I am in love with me, like I care about me, like I have the best intention for me, then I can override that initial feeling, that initial thought with my second thought and some action. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not a tight butt moment. So a tight butt moment is a phrase I've coined to describe that moment when you're about to do something new and something different. And so your ego is now on guard, right? It could be a saber-toothed tiger. So I need to be like, boom, fight, flight, or freeze. So we get that feeling in our stomach when you feel like, oh, I might shit myself. And so to stop yourself from shitting yourself, you clench your butt cheeks together really, really tightly. I call it a tight butt moment. In coaching, we call it optimal anxiety. But I believe that how you language your world will be a direct reflection on how you feel about your world. And I have had enough of feeling anxious, so I don't use the word anxiety. It's just not part of my vocabulary. I call it a tight butt moment. And what we tend to do as human beings is move away from uncomfortable things. I'm going to move away from the fire before it burns me. I'm going to move away from the lion before it eats me. I'm going to move away from the storm before it freezes me to death. We are designed biologically to move away from that which is not comfortable. But spiritually, and especially in the society in which we are now living, we don't need to move away from what is scary. We need to move towards it. And that feels really counterintuitive. And when we call it, Bob Proctor calls it the terror barrier. Like I said, in coaching, it's called optimal anxiety. Those are all words which make me want to move away from it. But who doesn't want a tight butt, Rosie? That is the question, isn't it? Everybody I know, do you want a tight butt or would you like a flabby ass? I'll have the tight butt, please. And so, use that phrase, keep it in the forefront of your mind. Is this a feeling of, and you can language anything and it will change it. Like the way you language your life will change the way you feel about your life. So it can feel like nervousness and it can feel really anxious, or it can feel like a tight butt moment and it can feel exciting, and it can be an indication that something is about to change, and change is good, and change is exciting, and change is getting you nearer to your goal, to your business goal, to your financial goal, to your freedom goal, to your connection goal, whatever your goal might be. But I'm telling you now that if you can control your second thought, and that's how you manage your mind. You don't manage your mind by never having negative thoughts. That's impossible because we ain't Buddha. But if you can start beginning to develop a voice around your second thought, and for me, it's much easier to put that as a third person than it is to actually talk to myself. It's much easier for me to imagine my niece in front of me and then ask myself, well, what do I want to demonstrate to this young lady? How do I want her to think about me? You know, when I shuffle off this mortal coil, what would I like her to say about her Auntie Emily? She was brave and she was courageous, and she showed up and she taught me what it was to love, and she told me what it was to show up and to be dedicated and to be in contribution. That's what I want her to say about me. I don't want her to say, oh yeah, no, she told me to be safe and sit on the sofa earning, you know, less than 60 grand a year. I'm not, I don't want, that's not the legacy I want to leave her. So I have to speak to her in my second thought. And then the other thing to remember is when you take action on that second thought, if you're taking the right action, it will feel like a tight butt moment. Because if you are taking action that is already comfortable, you're not growing. Yeah. It's like people say, oh, I just want more confidence. No, you don't. You want more comfort. You don't get confidence by doing the things that can make you grow and expand. Because it's only after you've done something so often that you know it like the back of your hand. Like you get into the car now, you drive from one end of the city to the other end of the city. You don't remember the journey. You don't know how many traffic lights you went through. You don't remember stopping for the pedestrian. Maybe you remember the Britney Spears song that you sang to. But you don't remember the actual process of driving. But my God, you remember your first ever driving lesson when the first time you got behind the wheel of a car and you're like, there's a goose, because in England you don't drive, you don't drive automatics, especially not in the 90s when I learned how to drive. Yeah. Everything was manual. I was like, what am I going to do? There's gears and there's pedals and there's people. It was horrendous. It took me ages to learn how to drive. I was terrible at it for a really long time. And now it's just I'm a confident driver, but that's only because I've done it so often. And so people say, I'm looking for confidence. You're not. You're looking for comfort. You won't grow in comfort. You can't. So do the things that you're not confident doing, and then do them enough until you are confident, and then find the next level, and then find the next level, and find the next level, and find the next level. And that is how you see people who are doing tremendous amounts of things. And you're like, how have you got the capacity for that? They didn't do all of that to begin with. They did it step by step by step by step by step. And I promise you, they are still having the same thoughts that you're having around, am I too old? Am I good enough? Isn't the market saturated? What if I don't have enough time? And then, you know, there's all this unconscious stuff that's going on as well. Like, what do you believe about money? What do you fear about success? What if I'm more successful than my husband and I start earning more money than my partner? What if I get so much work I don't have time to spend with my kids? And these are unconscious. Most of the time we don't even know these are happening. And so it's always a really good idea to sit and listen to your fear. Listen to your resistance, because it's telling you something. And once you know what it's telling you, then you've got more power with your second thought. Because if you don't know what your first thought is, then it's much harder to command it with a second thought. So, you know, take a journal, pen and paper, sit down this afternoon and go, what scares me about success? What worries me about failure? What do I actually think is going to happen here? Because your biology, your biochemistry, and your neurology doesn't understand the difference between fear and danger. Danger is, don't run away from the saber-toothed tiger. We'll go, move away from that much uncomfortableness. But fear is just something that we make up. What if I do this and it doesn't work? What if I do this and Joan down the road laughs at me because, you know, she doesn't get what I'm doing? And, you know, I have to manage judgment a lot. And managing judgment is this. Most people, there's a brilliant, beautiful book called Notes on a Nervous Planet by a guy called Matt Haig. And in that book, there's a passage, and I'm paraphrasing it because my memory is terrible. So I'm going to paraphrase it. But it's something along the lines of, stop thinking about your face. Nobody cares about your face because everybody else is worried about their own face. No one cares about your face. And it's so true, because I worry about what people think about me all of the time, because I think about me all of the time. It's exhausting. I'm constantly thinking about, what do I look like? What do I wear today? Where do I need to be? How am I presenting? Like, how am I feeling? But everybody else on the planet is doing the same thing. So most of the time, people don't care what you're doing. No. And if they do, it's probably a reflection of their own fear, their own judgment on self, their own worry, their own doubt. They see something in you that they would like themselves, so they begin to feel jealous. And the best way to deal with jealousy is to stop pushing back on that by bitching about somebody else and taking somebody else down. You know, hurt people will hurt people. And you have to rise above that, because if you don't, you become one of those hurt people, and you yourself will end up hurting people.
Yeah. You know, that expression, that the quote that you said from Matt, I'm like, oh God, I've always got like a really juvenile version of that in my world. Like, this is this fantastic book and it's this gorgeous quote and it sounds amazing. And in my head, I'm remembering the line from the animation Home, where one of the boobs, he just says, "What is the purpose of your face?" And like talking about her expression. What is the purpose of your face? And I love that line because
love that. I'm going to take someone down with that later on today. I'm going to wait until someone does something and like a quizzical expression. I'm going to be like, what's the purpose of your face?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's made my life better. That's awesome.
I'll see if I can send you a clip or something, because that just came straight to my head. But how exhausting is it too? Like with me just sitting, I found it exhausting picking on you before. And I can see that it's exhausting coming up with defenses.
Yeah. Oh, should we talk about defenses? This is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
You ready to go a bit deeper?
Yes.
All right. So as human beings, sorry, my dog's digging at my
Your dog is super cute. Can we meet your dog?
Yeah, Theodore, come here. Stop doing that, buddy. Who's this? Oh.
No. Oh, look at that hair.
Hello.
Hello.
You're a good boy.
Oh my gosh.
No, you're a good boy. Stop digging the sofa then. Best and worst thing in my life, that dog. Yes. Because life is all about polarity. You can't have one side of the coin without the other side of the coin. You can't have success without a little bit of tight butt. It's impossible.
Yeah. And you can't have a cute dog without it eating everything. You can't have a cute dog without
wanting to punch him in the face sometimes. It's the truth. It's just the truth. Okay, so defenses. So again, this comes back to everything starts in our human form with survival. Now, this is my personal working hypothesis at the moment. I reserve the right to change my mind, and I am constantly constantly reminding myself to be in an expansive way of thinking, which means I want to move away from a fixed mindset of right and wrong. It's the essence of science, right? Science is there to be disproved. It's not to prove anything right, it's there to be disproved. We thought the world was flat for many, many years. It's been disproved. We thought we can get smaller than a molecule. It's been disproved, or time and time and time again. And so that's the way I think about life, is that this is currently my understanding of life, but I'm very aware that I, fingers crossed, have many more years to live, and so can unlearn and relearn and have new learnings as I go. So my working hypothesis at the moment is that we are spiritual creatures having a human experience. Mm-hmm. And part of that human experience, and this harks back to some of the Buddhist ways of living, is that we are meant to be in suffering. Now, why? I haven't worked that out yet. And I think that might come after life. And I'm not meant to know what happens after I die. Otherwise, I feel like I would know. So I'm going to leave the great unknown out there, and I'm going to concentrate on what I can work with physically right now. And as a human being, like I said, we're designed to move away from discomfort, and that is a survival mechanism. So everything that is uncomfortable, that is a signal to our physical being that we might be in danger of death. Mm-hmm. And all we want to do is survive. I want to survive and want to procreate. That's it. Two things, two objectives. Which is why we fear rejection, because we can't do life on our own. And what we have been able to do, and you see animals do it, my dog does it all the time, right? He's constantly in survival mechanism. And he is learning what will make him feel comfortable, i.e. me giving him loads of hugs. Actually, I don't think he likes that, and what makes him, he's an arsehole. And what makes him uncomfortable, right? So when he's really, really naughty and he gets put in the room by himself with none of his toys to play with, and he will learn after enough cause and effect action to modify his behavior accordingly. And human beings are the same. We modify our behavior, we modify our strategies so that we can make sure as much of the time as possible we are safe and comfortable. Because we're human beings and we have an overdeveloped neurocortex, prefrontal cortex, we have a heap of conscious awareness that other animals don't have. And what this means is that when people say things like, if you turn around to Theodore, my dog, and went, "Hey Theodore, you've got the shittest haircut ever, man. You look like an idiot." Theodore will be like, "Have you got a bone I can eat?" Like, doesn't care, right? But if you're a 4-year-old kid in a playground and Billy from down the road comes up to you and says, "Hey, Emily, your hair looks silly and no one likes you and you smell of weed and you haven't got any friends, and I'm 4,
Yeah.
I don't go, have you got a bone I can eat? I go, I am not worthy as a human being. I'm not worthy means that I may die. Because if people don't like me, I will not be included in the group. I won't be included in the tribe. And if I'm not included in the tribe, I can't survive, let alone procreate. So my response now is to do one of 2 things. I'm either going to adapt my behavior to be as likable as possible, or I'm going to start defending myself. Now, either way, it's not going to work out too well for me. But what we tend to do, and I'm going to use connection and rejection is because it's the best way to explain this. What we tend to do is we're like, that hurt, that didn't feel good. So what do I need to put in place to not feel like that again? So what we're trying to run away from here is rejection. Okay, I don't want to feel rejected. Because what we really crave is connection. The opposite of rejection is connection. So while I'm now busy doing everything that I can from 4 years old up until 38, so for 34 years, I'm now building up this wall of protection against rejection. So that might be, I'm going to finish this relationship before this guy finishes with me first. I'm not going to give him a chance to reject me. I'm going to reject him first. I'm going to be bitchy and mean to all of the girls at school before they're bitchy and mean to me, because I'm never going to feel the same way that Billy made me feel in the playground when I was 4 years old, all going on unconsciously in our mind. And so then what we end up doing is that we build up all of these strategies. We don't question them. It's all unconscious. We don't even know we're doing it. It's like, well, this is just who I am. Okay, it's not my fault that you're ugly, Sharon, right? And that's how we end up being the bully ourselves. Or we do the opposite of that, and our protection comes from a place of just like being a real people pleaser, staying really small, trying to like, don't let Billy see you in the playground, don't put your hand up in class, don't be seen, right? Either way, we're still building ourselves a protection between rejection. But while this wall is being built with all these strategies, guess what else we're blocking?
Connection.
The very fucking thing that we're after.
Mm-hmm.
And so the defense mechanisms that we employ, we need to listen to them, because they are probably telling us something about a fundamental belief that we have adopted normally from the imprint years, which is 0 to 7. After 7 years old, we drop into full consciousness. But before 7 years old, we're not actually, our brain, the brain waves that we emanate are the same as if an adult were under hypnosis. So we don't have full consciousness until we're 7 years old. We're like sponges. And that's not, I'm just seeing what my mum does and mimicking that. It's I'm feeling. I've got these pheromones. Like, we only experience consciously through our 5 senses. There's all other sorts of energies that are going on around us. You know, you can hear your mum being like, I love your father, but while she's secretly like crying and weeping and punching him in the balls behind your back, like, you know, that's going on in your childhood home, and you are making assumptions about what a relationship is. You're making an assumption, a belief system, a paradigm about what it is to be married, about what it is to be a woman, about what it is to be in love, about how a relationship should look. And you don't have any other comparison for that as a child. And so that then becomes cemented as your ideology. And then you will go and manifest that yourself in one way or another, or the exact opposite of it, to protect yourself from it.
Yeah.
So it's always worth knowing what your belief systems are. For a really long time, I couldn't work out why I could make money, but I couldn't keep hold of it. I found making money quite easy, but I just never had any. And it wasn't until I started listening to the feelings that I have, the voices that I have around money. What I hadn't realized was I grew up in a tiny little village in the middle of nowhere in Somerset in the UK. And at the top of the village, there was a big council estate. It's like commission housing here in Australia. In England, we call it a council estate. And most of my mates lived on the council estate. Now, we lived in this huge, big 4-bedroom detached house at the bottom of the village. And so my parents sort of had this, we were very British. And so everything's swept under the carpet, and you put your game face on whenever you leave the house, right? Now, we had a period of about 5 to 6 years when I was growing up where my dad left the Navy and he went and retrained. My mum had to go back to work full time as a physio. She really didn't want to. And my parents argued about money. We didn't have any money. For some reason, my parents wouldn't sell the house because game face. And so I was in this environment where I didn't feel safe because of money. because my parents were arguing. Now, at 6 years old, unconsciously, I know that I need both of my parents in order to survive. So I've got my parents arguing about money. I feel unsafe about money. At the same time, all of my friends live in the council estate, and so they call me the posh one. So not only do I not have money, but I'm also ashamed of the money that I do have. And this paradigm around money followed me and manifested in the way that I operated with money, the way I saw other people with money, the way I judged people with money, the way I judged people with no money, how I spent my money, how I valued my own service with money. And the power of unpacking this, not just with money, with your relationships, with your health, with every aspect of your life, how you lead, how you parent. And it's amazing what defenses come down. And again, that's sometimes a tight butt moment because you're learning to be a certain way that you've never been before. That's scary for your ego, because now it's got to be on guard because it's never done this before and it's new and I've never driven a car before, and it's like, go back to the sofa and do the thing you used to do because that would make me feel more comfortable. And you have to override that with your second thought. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. I love you because you're part of me, but you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to present this thing this afternoon. I'm going to do this live. I'm going to call back that warm lead. I'm going to go to that networking meeting, because while I continue to play into and behind my defense system, I will always stay small. And while I stay small, I will always, in a weird way, become the self-fulfilling prophecy of the person that I don't want to be. Yeah. So that's a little bit about defense mechanisms. And again, it's definitely worth, yes, you can go and there are some amazing coaches out there. I don't know if I mentioned that. I might be one of them. And you can work through all of that kind of stuff. But, it really is as simple as, if you just wanted to do something around it, like you literally sit down, take a really, really, really big glass of water with you, not wine, just a big glass of water, have a drink, sit down, take some really deep breaths, and then ask yourself, what do I believe to be true about money? And just write it out. The good, the bad, the contradictory. Don't think about it. Just let it all out and then assess it and then just highlight where all of the non-resourceful belief systems around money have come out. And just ask yourself, well, actually, if I wanted to change that thought, it was enough. All it took was for me to identify that as a small child, I had this very conflicting, unsafe feeling with money, to be able to say, well, actually, now I'm 38 years old and I get to change that story. Do you know what? I used to believe that when I grew up, I needed to find my Prince Charming. I used to believe that if I was really good, Father Christmas would come down the chimney every year. I used to believe all sorts of stuff. I used to believe in the Christian faith. I was brought up in a very strict Church of England household. I don't believe in God in that sense anymore. I actually do have a really strong spiritual faith, but I don't have any religious faith. The people that taught us didn't know themselves.
Yeah.
They didn't. My parents didn't know, and they taught me what they didn't know, and I assumed it was truth. And that's not because they're terrible people.
No, that's what
they're
we do.
Amazing people. You only know what you know. And, part of the mindset game is about unlearning what you thought was true.
Yeah.
And then finding something which is more in line with the version of the life that you want, and the person that you would need to become to create that life, and start convincing yourself that that is true instead.
Yeah.
Men are awesome. Business is easy. Money is abundant. I am worthy.
Yeah. And one of the things that I did that was very similar to what you're talking about with the money is redefine, because, everyone has, not everyone, but a lot of people have fear around success. And so I've talked about this with my members a bit, because we have fear of what we've been told success is, and we don't sit down and look at what success is to us. So what is my definition of success? Completely different to yours. And until I know, I'm going to fear success because it's not going to resonate with me.
And it's also this is such a beautiful conversation to have. The really interesting paradoxical thing about this is that success is subjective, like you say, but also, like everything else, it's expansive and changeable. So when I first started out in business, if you've been watching any of my stuff, you might have heard me every now and then. I'll refer to myself as the white skinny Oprah.
Yeah, I was going to mention that when I was picking on you before, but I didn't get around to it.
To be fair, that is something that you should probably bully me about. Yeah, I refer to myself as the white skinny Oprah because, you know, when I first started out in business, I had these really, you know, massive dreams of being that successful and having that sort of global presence. And I'm not saying that I don't still, in my visualizations and when I run and when I connect to my goals and when I think about the impact that I want to deliver on this planet, and the more impact you make, the more income you make. Mm-hmm. That is just a basic equation of life. And so therefore, the abundance that I would like to live in and to be able to afford my family to live in and to treat my friends to as well. But, you know, the more I made money and the more impact that I make, it's really interesting what you learn about that real experience.
Yes.
And you have to ask yourself, I tell my clients this all the time, you have to ask yourself, am I willing? And it's okay if you're not willing. Yeah. And it's okay if you thought you were willing and then you started on that pathway and you realized, wow, actually, you know, some of the amazing female coaches that that I watch, you know, and follow, I'm actually not willing to do what they are willing to do. And that's okay. I make my peace with that. And so, you know, success for me, it used to be very a masculine energy. And I don't mean like man energy. I just mean it was very KPI focused and, you know, numbers focused and achievement and ticking stuff off. And I would feel like I was a success when I had this many clients, when I had this much money. And this is just my own personal journey that I'm going to bang on now, but I'm sure it will resonate with someone, which is that now the closer I got to achieving that, or the further along down that line I went, the more I realized it took me away from who I actually really was happy being. And so my metric for success has shifted dramatically. And I think I see lots of business owners who don't have that fluidity in the way that they think, mm-hmm. or who feel like when they change their own goalposts, they are not in success. And it's just like, you've got to be happy about the game that you're playing, or you won't want to play the game. And so for me now, success is, am I making an impact and am I serving? And am I making enough of an impact to have enough income to be able to do the things that I want to be able to do with the people that I want to be able to do it? And so for me, that means, you know, I don't start work before midday. I might do a live video in the morning because I do most of my live videos, I find I'm just in more flow first thing in the morning. Mm-hmm. So quite often I'll wake up and I'll do that. But, you know, do I have a lifestyle where I can wake up and meditate first thing in the morning before 6 a.m. Or I can walk my dog on the beach, where I can go to Bali in March. I'm going to go and do some Kundalini training, which is a very specific type of yoga specifically for a meditation. I'm going to go to India and spend a month there doing my training in October. Like, can I create enough to be able to do that? And this is where then life becomes ironic. The moment that you step away from need is the moment that you shift your vibrational frequency into one of already having enough.
Yeah.
And that's when you get more. But you don't, it's so annoying. It's so annoying. But you can't do that. And you can't do that while you're still in the pursuit of it. Yeah. But you can't not be in the pursuit of it until you've got it. So it's almost like you have to get to a certain level. The penny drops, you release the need, and that's when you get more. But you know, that is just the great paradox of life. And again, you can't teach that type of surrender. Oh, it's yeah, totally. And you can't teach surrender, and that's what that is. That's like the fifth step of the manifestation process, which is that you have to surrender the need for it. So you kind of like the first 4 steps are all about having the desire, taking action, putting yourself in the alignment, you know, sorting through all your limiting beliefs, and like having a second thought and managing your mind, and then you come to the 5th step, which is like surrender it all, put it all down, don't need it anymore. And then you can have it. And that is such a journey, and it's not a journey that you go on once. It's a secular journey, and it is always happening in all sorts of contexts all of the time for me. So yeah, life, what a bitch. But you know what, it's so, if you can put down the seriousness of it and just like laugh along with it. If you don't laugh with life, life will laugh at you. And you just have to see the ridiculousness of it, and especially in business, you know, you have to, the moment that it begins to feel really heavy and really like that, you have to put something down, and normally it's your own ego and your own seriousness, and just come back to, why am I doing this? Who am I doing it for? How can I be of service? What will that service give me in return? And, you know, do I need to just move away from the laptop, have a big glass of water, or maybe now we're talking about wine, and, you know, go outside and stand in nature and play with my kids and, you know, rile my puppy up and remind myself that, you know, life is so sacred and we are only here for a very short period of time and we don't know when that time is going to end. So what can I do today? If it was going to end tonight, would I be happy with the way that I spent my day today? And that doesn't mean staying safe on the sofa and pretending like the world doesn't exist. It means feeling vibrant and alive and open, and you know, business is a beautiful way to do those things, because my God, you know, you're alive when you're in business.
Yeah, and I think you've got to make business fun. I have a lot of people that come through, and especially when they're starting off, and that's who we're, you know, doing this for, where they're asking all the hard questions, but they do it in such a serious and concerned way, and it's got to be done in a particular order and all that sort of thing. And I'm kind of like, I can't answer all that for you. Not because I don't have answers for individual stuff, but it doesn't work that way.
Oh, it's so hard to explain it, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, it's the chaos order theory. So you cannot have order, but you cannot have chaos and then expect order. But if you have order, you can have chaos. And then once you have the chaos, you will have to apply some order again to make that chaos resourceful. And then once you've got order, you can have more chaos. And so that's the paradox of life. I talk about polarity with my clients all of the time. You know, it's impossible to have love without hate. And you know, we demonize so many of our emotions. You shouldn't feel like this. You shouldn't feel shame. You shouldn't feel angry. You shouldn't feel scared. And it's just bullshit. It's normal. I call it being unashamedly human. Sorry, someone's sporting some sweet merch.
I need one of those.
so good. Playing around with designs at the moment. Anyway, so you know, you've got temperature, right? Now temperature is the thing. You cannot have temperature without having hot and cold. It's impossible. And your emotions are the same. You can't have love without fear. You know, you can't have success without failure. It's impossible to achieve success and not to have failed in the process of getting there. Yeah. And the irony being, of course, when you get to success, you probably won't feel like it. You'll still feel like a failure, which is why you level up, you level up, you level up. And, you know, the most successful people I know have failed the quickest and the hardest. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's so hard to explain that. You know, there are systems out there, and there are systems that you should follow, and they're tried and they're tested, but there always has to be room for fucking it up, for doing it differently, for doing it with your own unique flair. You know, like I said, I don't teach anything that hasn't already been taught or isn't being taught by somebody else right now, but nobody can teach it like Emily.
Sure.
Then I can't teach it like Sharon, and I can't teach it like Joan. I can only teach it like Emily, but that is my secret weapon is me. And, you know, so all the systems and all the knowledge and all the strategies are completely and totally and utterly useless unless you have learned how to be you.
Yes.
And to be okay with that. Yeah. And it doesn't mean I'm better or worse than anybody else. It just is.
Yeah, you've actually hit the nail on the head there, because the people that ask all those questions where I feel like I can't answer them haven't looked at the sections that focus on you and your mindset and where you're coming from and what you're trying to achieve. Yeah. And so I can't answer any of the questions. I can't direct you anywhere because you're jumping ahead of that. And until you look at that stuff, it's sort of textbook questions for an assignment for a teacher that you don't care about. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard this at the very beginning of my business journey, and you hear something and then you hear it again, 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 and then all of a sudden you hear it and it means something because you've now got experience to understand it at a completely different level.
Yeah.
You can learn how to swim from reading a book, but until you get in the pool, you don't know how to swim.
Yeah, that's right. You
just
get in there.
It's like you can learn all the technical know-how, and you can learn about active campaign, you can learn about ClickFunnels, but until you are doing it and operating with clients, you don't know what it is. So implementation, and part of implementation is getting it wrong. A huge part, 80% of implementation is getting it wrong so you can learn how to get it right.
Yeah.
And implementation is key, and experience is key. You can't teach people experience. You can only teach people theory. And someone once said to me at the very beginning of my business journey, they said, what you are learning in terms of, so I'm trained in NLP and hypnotherapy and coaching. And, she said, what you are learning in terms of that is less than 20%. What you're learning about sales, what you're learning about marketing, less than 20%. 80% of business is about your mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard it, and then I heard it, and then I heard it, and then I heard it. And I was still concentrating on that 20% because it didn't make sense. Or what I thought mindset was learning to be strong and learning to be confident and learning to put yourself out there. But it's not. It's about learning to accept failure, and it's about looking inside your own soul, and it's about finding broken parts of you that you didn't even know were there, and healing past trauma, and nurturing yourself and speaking to yourself like you're your eldest niece who you love more than anything else in the world. And that is a very gentle, vulnerable, volatile at times, but stunningly beautiful journey to go on. And if I never made a penny out of business again, what I have in the relationship with me now is worth more than all of the money in the world. And I wouldn't take any of it back, even though almost every second of it was a tight bum moment. And I'm sure there are many more to come.
Yeah. I love that. On that note, it's got to finish on a tight butt statement. I love that. Thank you for letting me pick on you today.
No, you're welcome. I will be sending something nasty in the post to you. Expect some Theodore poo in your post box.
You know what? I sent a glitter bomb to a friend once because she loves glitter, and it was really funny because I hate having glitter everywhere. I hate it. And so people are like, send a glitter bomb as, a nasty thing, but she loves glitter. And she got it. She was so excited. So happy.
I just think those people, glitter people, no, not into it.
Don't understand the glitter people.
No, nor do I. But there are some people out there who are all about the glitter people.
Yeah. There you go.
There's someone for everyone. Absolutely.
We are just two of many, many people.
Yeah, apparently, which is weird because I seem to think I'm the only person in the world sometimes. I'm like, the entire universe revolves around me.
Well, I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
Now I'm anxious.
On that note, thank you so much. Thank you for just so many golden gems in there. It was like a confetti explosion of gems. So there you go. We've done it.
I am my own glitter bomb.
You did. That was it. That was your glitter bomb right there. Oh, I like that. Love your work. Thank you so much for your time. What we'll do is with this video is we'll share links to all of your awesome, unashamedly human stuff.
Thank you.
And hopefully, we'll be able to chat to you again soon. You gorgeous minx, you.
Love you very much.
Love ya. See ya.